Okay, yeah. If anybody needs to leave, go ahead and go.
Okay, does somebody want to do the exploration with me?
Amber, I feel like you're ready
So,
for
okay,
this.
my claim is I don't believe it's ethical to lie to children about the existence of
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say I believe in Santa Claus. So I was like,
I want to discuss this because I want to see, because it's something I have with you.
Yeah.
And I want to see if I can honestly
That's
discuss
a
this
valid
with
claim.
somebody.
Okay,
But
Alex, how do you
I
feel
have a
about
hard time
asking?
honestly discussing it.
I can give it a shot.
Okay.
Alex.
I can give the
So Alex
not
will answer.
expert example of trying this stuff.
Hey, we're all learning. We're all students. We're all just.
So I'm going to
practicing,
disclaim that this is my first time ever doing this. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah, introduce yourselves.
I'm Cassie. This is my first meetup for a Street Epistemology Meetup. So
I'm Alex. I've come to these meetups for a while and am just barely starting to get my feet wet in terms of actual interviews with SE. So,
all right. So the topic I chose is Santa Claus, and I'm going to go with the claim that I think it's unethical to lie to our own children about the existence of Santa Claus.
unethical to lie to children about Santa.
And the root of that is I feel like it's unethical to lie to children about pretty much anything that is not going to affect them in the near or term in any kind of dangerous way. So like if you have to lie to your children to keep them safe, that's a different issue. But if it is not something that is going to affect their safety, that it's unethical to lie to our children in the first place.
So if it doesn't affect their safety, it's unethical.
Yeah.
Okay. And you think talking about Santa doesn't do that? It doesn't.
Yeah, I think there's no element of safety that is provided by believing in Santa Claus.
What is your confidence in this claim? Let's say a 0 to 100, 100 being total confidence. You'd have to change the universe to convince me I'm wrong versus 0 very open.
I'm always willing to hear other opinions, and if there's some factual basis that can change my mind, I'm willing to listen to it, but I would say about 95% on the lying to children in general.
95. Pretty strong.
Specifically Santa Claus. Pretty strong, but there's that 5% chance of changing my mind on this one.
Okay. So I've got a confidence level from you. I'm kind of curious the reasons that you believe this. How did you come to have this belief?
So it started with a few different ways. First, hearing other kids feel. So I did grow up very religious. I'm no longer religious. I think part of it was the being told about Santa Claus and this make-believe thing. It led me to not trust everything my parents said. And I try to honestly not lie to my own children. And I want the end result for them to be able to trust me when it comes to anything that's less, well, Santa Claus I don't feel like is very important, but like other things that are more important, I want my children to have that inherent trust in what I'm telling them, and I think parents in general should strive to have that level of trust with their children.
Okay, so if I can reiterate back to you what I've heard, I like your point about trust. You say that little white lies like Santa Claus can break down trust in a way
Over
that
time.
has negative side effects outside of that particular thing they lied about, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just writing some notes down here.
Not a
just to-
problem.
just to make sure I keep in mind exactly some of the phrases
Yeah.
you've used here. 'Cause I'm trying to think of the next question to ask. I'm willing to accept some help if someone around here.
I would like to discuss the meaning of ethical in this context, but
Okay.
I feel that's going to be a rabbit hole, so I'm actually not going to do that.
Okay.
I just want to suggest that could be something to discuss. So I'm hearing that what you, a large component of your reasoning is that if your children find out you lied to them, it will cause them not to trust you.
That's correct.
And keeping trust with children and having children keep their trust with you is important and something that we should sustain. So you mentioned your own background growing up, and your parents told you about Santa Claus, I'm guessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at some point you found that Santa Claus was not real and found out that it was a lie, right?
Well, and I'll clarify. So I grew up in a split family.
Okay.
I had one parent who played the Santa Claus myth, and one parent that told us the history of what Santa Claus was and didn't play with any like, yes, Santa Claus is real, Santa Claus isn't real. They left it up for ourselves to decide.
Okay.
And so having both of those experiences, I feel like gave me more trust in the parents who let me have room to discover what I believe. And
So can I ask? So
Yeah.
the parent who did believe or did play
foster the belief.
Yeah, foster the belief in Santa Claus. Did they do so despite protestation, right? Would they, like, if you, presumably with your other parent, right? They told you, like, well, Santa Claus used to be Saint Nicholas, and the gift-giving tradition comes from,
Yeah.
You knew the whole story. Did that parent nonetheless say, no, Santa Claus is real?
No,
Okay,
no, it
Okay.
was the playing of the game
okay,
earlier
I see.
before I was able to really break
Okay.
it down and kind of
So
critically.
one thing I'm interested in, I want to try to compare outcomes here, and I don't want to take over fully from you, Alex. So I'll throw it back after this question. So were there other things that sort of were chips in the cracks in the dam of trust that happened with you?
Very.
Or and would you also maybe be willing to look at people whose parents did play the Santa Claus game, but who nonetheless, their children are able to trust them, into adulthood?
I mean, I am willing to look at it, but I
Yeah.
think the risk outweighs the benefit of lying to your children. And now I will say, with my own children, and to give some background, when they ask me about Santa Claus, my reaction is, what do you think? I don't lie to them. I let them tell me what they think, and I was like, that's interesting. And I leave it. So that way my children can't come back to me and be like, you lied to me about the existence of Santa. I'll be like, no, I just asked you what your thoughts and opinions. And my children are now old enough that they no longer believe in Santa Claus, and I've had that conversation. They're like, why'd you let us believe in Santa? I was like, I let you believe what you felt was right and what other children, around you believed, and I wanted you to come to your own opinion, and I wanted to give you the freedom to do that.
So I'm gonna assume a lot of things here. Imagine that you were not told that Santa was real from an early age.
Okay.
Would you say that this could be true, that if you were to have believed that Santa was not real and that you were never really quite lied to by your parents, that you could have had difficulties? Can you imagine having such difficulties in terms of social situations in which people can lie to you and you are more easily, persuaded into what they were saying?
Okay. I just want to kind of clarify that question because it feels like a two-part question.
It's very clear.
So the first part is in social situations. There's a lot of people from different religious backgrounds through a lot of the world that don't believe in Santa. Like, that's not a cultural thing everywhere, even in the United States. So if we look at our Jewish population, other religious populations, they don't believe in Santa. I almost want to turn it back to you. Like, do you think that negatively affects them in social situations?
No, what I meant to say is just
Okay.
the idea of being lied to, not necessarily about Santa, just the idea of being lied to is, so I think there is a little bit of good that comes from being lied to,
Okay.
because then it makes you a little bit wiser. Don't believe in anybody, everything that people tell you, even though you might have some trust with them.
I think I
Is there
would.
some good about that?
I think children get lied to and misled enough in their lives that it does not need to come from their parents. And so they'll still get those critical thinking skills, because I'm assuming that's what you're asking, like their critical thinking, long-term, their wisdom. They'll still pick those skills up. It doesn't need to be picked up inside their household.
Where would they be exposed to, guys?
Other children, typically, YouTube videos, if we're going to talk about screen time. Like there's plenty of places where 5-minute videos, I think, is one of the things that pops up all the time with just ridiculousness. They'll see it everywhere.
So you will say that it would be safer to learn it from other children than their families, which is, I would say, a little bit more nicer because they care about their children in some way.
So learning about the existence of Santa,
No, just
or
like,
the
just like
unex-
learning that people can lie to you. I mean, I think that it would be more safe to be being lied to from your parents than being lied by YouTube or by other kids. I mean, I think there is some good. So like, if you're lying to if your parents are lying to you, in my opinion, it's better than some kid lying to you, because the kid might not really care about you whatsoever. So he could like get all your money or whatever. I don't know.
I feel like this is almost a second claim that could be explored in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
But so
I mean,
the
I
reason
think
why
that
I'm asking this is just to break your belief about it, right? Because your belief is not good, but I'm trying to give you like a different perspective.
And maybe you could ask the question, is there anything that would change your
But not
mind
right.
on this belief that would convince you that, yes, lying to your children about Tooth Fairy, Santa, Easter Bunny is a good thing?
There's
if there was some
yeah.
empirical evidence that came out about the overall health and success of children who grew up believing in Santa Claus until X age, the Tooth Fairy till X age, if there was actual data that was from a big enough study group, I would reevaluate, and that's where that kind of 5% still
Is
comes
that kind of where you were going with that, or did you mean something else?
I was just really trying to break down the claim, but to me it seems interesting. This happens a lot when trying to, so this is interesting because normally when you talk about someone who has a strong belief, you're trying to change their mind. It doesn't have to become confrontational. However, there is always a little bit of pain that comes with it. It's like, oh, you're destroying my mind, right? Like, there's all opposition,
Yes.
right? Like, it's like, now you're the enemy because you're trying to break
Were we
my
trying to
belief and
change
my
your
ideal.
mind?
Well, I feel like,
Was that the goal?
I feel like I was trying to do that, and I
Oh.
felt like she was feeling that. Would you agree?
Did you feel like
Do you-
Alex
do you
was
feel
trying to
attacked?
I
change
feel like you
your
were
mind?
trying to challenge my belief,
Do
which,
you feel attacked?
no.
Do you feel like you have like some pain going on? Some
No.
Well, we haven't
I mean,
really
there's-
changed her mind, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so
challenging it.
I would if
This
you
happens a lot. Sorry, this happens a lot in like religious beliefs. Like if you were to like discuss a religion on
Yeah.
somebody and try to like break it down,
Oh, yeah,
they
it's
feel
painful.
attacked
It's
and
painful.
gets freaked out.
Right.
And it's painful. And I
It
think
can
that's
be.
an important
If
thing to
it's
discuss as to how not to do that or how do you go.
Or
Yes.
sometimes too, in street epistemology review videos about theists responding to street epistemology questions, the overarching thing that you see repeatedly is the defensiveness. The idea that the theist is being defensive and therefore doubling down, or what they would term the backfire effect. So in other words, even if you as a street epistemologist were not intending this, that the believer is, and I've been criticized for saying street epistemology is basically atheist evangelism. So I'm already, people are, but I want people to be informed so that they're not feeling antagonistic. They walk into an SE conversation realizing this is at least an ideological background that exists, so that there is not this natural defensiveness, because the big topic in SE right now is consent. If you're going to make a video of this, we're going to record it. Why are you doing this? What's the point? And how much are you going to tell your interlocutor about what's going on?
no.
So that's absolutely a critical part, especially when you're talking to a theist, to make it,
And especially if that's your goal.
if that's your goal.
is
Yeah,
to
some
break
people
down their religious.
are using SE
beliefs.
to do that. Old Testament street epistemology.
Should we get back to the claim here?
Okay, yeah.
So
I do have to get going.
I'm going to say,
It's good to meet you.
It was fun.
are you okay if I maybe challenge you a little bit,
Yeah.
or pursue a slightly more aggressive line of questioning?
Okay.
So
You have
one
6 minutes.
One thing that I found interesting was you said that when your children have asked you if Santa exists, you withhold the truth. You are not actually truthful with them. Right? You don't say that Santa doesn't exist. You say, what do you think?
Right,
Which
because-
has prompted them subsequently to say, why did you permit us to believe in Santa?
That is correct. Because I want to give them the freedom to be able to come to their own conclusions. But also, the one argument that I've heard is there's a certain magic in believing in these things. And I didn't want to take that away either.
I'm sorry if this is sounding very aggressive,
Not a
but
problem.
ultimately it seems our purpose here is to engender trust.
Yes.
And it seems to me at odds with the goal of engendering trust to withhold the truth. I don't know your situation, I don't know your kids, but the way that I heard your presentation of the interaction, why did you allow us to believe in Santa, it sounded like they felt betrayed.
Yes, but I felt that I was in a position that I could explain. So it's the same thing when it comes to their safety and their well-being. If they later oh, well, we were technically legally allowed to leave our car seats at 50 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know they're safer in their car seats, like from a safety perspective, not just a legal one. I know they're going to be safer until 80 pounds in a booster seat in my car. So for their safety, I'm like, no, it's recommended. And I leave that more vague.
Sure.
And if when they get on the internet and they're like, Mom, we could have left our booster seat when we were 50 pounds. Why did you keep us in? I can easily explain, I wanted to keep you safe. And it is recommended. Like, while it's not the law, it is still recommended that you are in a booster seat until that time. So if I have an explanation for letting them believe something while not explicitly telling them one way or another, I feel comfortable with that situation. That I don't feel like I'm necessarily misleading them for a reason that doesn't have some benefit, and not necessarily misleading them, letting them believe things at a surface value.
Okay. Alex, we kind of hijacked.
Yeah.
I will turn it back over to
Do
you.
we want to wrap up? We've got
Yeah,
we need
I
5
think
minutes.
it's kind of along the lines of what you hinted, but one question I wanted to ask was, it's unethical to lie to children about certain things. Does it matter if the lie is intentional or not? Like, I'm going to take a wild guess, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, but
I would
if you lie to kids in a way that you know that you're lying, does that necessarily imply different things than if you don't know if you're lying?
if you don't know or you think you are not. To define, like, if you think you are telling your children something and it's not a lie, you thought it was the truth, that is very different than intentionally misleading, yes.
If you're saying something you believe
Right.
is truthful.
So a lie with the intention of misleading necessarily. How do you judge if someone's intentionally trying to mislead someone with a lie?
I think that is up to the individual person who is stating the fact. Like, do you know what you are saying is a lie or not? Like, that's where it comes down to. And if you are able to...
Well, in the case of Santa Claus,
Okay.
the main reason most people teach it to their kids is because it's fun, it's goofy. So, like, we wouldn't say these parents intend to mislead their kids, or would you disagree with that?
I think if you as a parent know Santa doesn't exist and you're like, yeah, Santa, like I'll go to I never marked presents from Santa, like I never did that type of thing. So if you are repeatedly misleading, I think that can be negative for their ability to trust you down the line.
Good conversation.
And I think
We need to wrap it up here, but that's great. So, thank your conversation partner for talking
Yeah.
to you.
Yes,
Thank you.
very much.
That was,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my book, came out a couple summers ago, my email's in the back.
Thank
If
you.
anybody wants to Street Epistemology chat with me, I've got, and I'm real open and cool, and I do on Zoom, and I talk on stuff, and if you wanna see my videos or whatever, I'll leave these here if anybody wants one.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who came today.